Okay, fantastic, everybody. Hope that we have made a new connection with somebody who we hadn't met yet. Now we're going to move on to our next panel discussion. So our next panel discussion is entitled Education and Social Mobility, How Public Financing Can Bridge the Opportunity Gap. So I'd like to welcome onto the stage our moderator for this next discussion, Tony Attridge, founder of the College of Health and Fitness. And now for our panelists, Ridwan Yusuf, Principal Architect, Learning Experience Design. Activate by Adam Koo Learning Technologies Group. Suman Das, Director and Head Partnership, Accelerator for Learning, Research and Training. Satendra Singh Kari, Chief Technology Officer, Edoxy Training. And of course, Professor Matthew Yip, mathematician, founder, Top Mathematics Education Centre. Let's give all of our panelists a round of applause as we welcome them to the stage. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Tony. Take the floor.
Thank you. Welcome everybody to today's session where we're talking about education and social mobility, the use of public funding and how we can bridge the opportunity gap. Now what I would like you to do for me before I start, if I can get everyone except for the people in the front row to stand up. Everyone except for the people in the front row to stand up. So you can please stand up for me, please. Please stand up. Everyone except for the people in the front row, if you can please stand up for me. So everyone stand up, unless you're in the front row. Excellent. Now what I would like you to do is I would like you to take your belongings and move one table forward. Pick your belongings up and move one table forward for me, please. There are seats, I have counted them. So pick your belongings up, move one table forward. I do see you if you do not move a table forward. Thank you. So pick a table and move one table forward for me, please. That also includes the people in the back tables. Excellent. Move one table forward. There is a method in my madness. Okay, now some of you have moved out of your comfort zone and there's probably about 4 people in this room that have stayed within their comfort zone. We'll discuss that very soon. What I would like to do is I would like to introduce my fellow panellists and we'll be coming up one at a time and presenting on our experiences in obtaining, using and the statistics behind public funding and social mobility. So first of all, I would like to introduce Matthew, who is the President of Mathematical Science Research, International Institute of Academic Research out of McCall. Our second speaker will then be Suman, who is the business partner of Accelerator for Learning, Research and Training, based in India. And then we have Ridwan, who operates a company called Activate out of Singapore. And then myself, as I was introduced, I'm the owner and founder of the College of Health and Fitness, and I'll be talking about the applications of public funding. So Matthew, if you'd like to take the stage, please.
Testing. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Matthew, a math educator and the keynote speaker in the previous session. And as I said, we wish our global math and math Olympic grade assessment test with competition and our automatic math learning system could achieve education fairness and social mobility. Yeah, this is one of our objectives. Yeah.
And Suman, would you like to start with your presentation, please? Okay.
Good morning, namaste, everybody. My name is Shuman Das. I am from India. So, as every Indian says, welcome my brothers, sisters, and my fellow colleagues here. Let's start our panel discussion. Yeah, it's starting from me. So, at first, let me introduce my organization, where I'm coming from. That's Accelerator for Learning, Research, and Training. It's an organization that works for the elders. We don't work for the kids, but we work for their mom, their dad, their grandpas. So what we do actually, we do changes their lives by giving them opportunity to livelihood systems, by giving them opportunity to access to different funds, different knowledges, and have their own lives better. So coming towards the panel's topic, what's the problem? Let's discuss about the problem first. First is lack of accessibility of fund. That realize the people who are working there in India, actually based in India, so every context that I will discuss will follow Indian system. So in India, what we see, the people, most of them are not that much educated, so that leads, they don't get good job over there. So for that, what happens is, they have lack of knowledges on technical side. They have lack of knowledges in how to get out there and get a good job. So for that, they don't get money. Whenever you are getting less money, what happened is your social and your physical, your personal and social stages goes down. There we come. Alert, as an organization, is working from 2021, and from then, we are working for it, and we have some solutions for that, actually. If we're talking about the solutions, we have three kind of things. First, what we do is, we do some researches. We do research as per the field, as per the area, and their social and political situations. And you know, being in a democratic country, you can't do anything anywhere else. So we had to go a bit slow over there. We do researches, and we find what the best thing we can implement there, and we impose the government. We tell the government about it, and sometimes we got lucky, and we got some fund to run a program. And whenever we're getting that kind of leverage over there, we develop some of our course curriculums, that is called QPs. Matthew, in lots of areas, it's being said, QPs, qualification pack, as well as the training manuals that we develop. And we develop it in such a way that the people who are accessing it, they are well versed on it. It is based on their own lives, based on their own journey. So they are very keen or very accessible to use it. After that, we bring them to another part, that is EDP program, that is Entrepreneurship Development Program. We call it XLOBs. And over there, we teach them how to make their own business plan, how to do their own vision exercises, how to make his own business to a place where they can have some accessibility of other stuffs like market linkages, like bank linkages, like credit linkages, everything we support them. And at last, what we do is we make them in such a position that they're being able to make their own pitches, they are being able to make their own business ideas, and they pitch it to the government sectors, like banks, like different grants and all. So I'm really happy to say, in 2 years, we have almost 1,000 people with us, connected people, yeah, I must say them people because they're not kids. More than 1,000 people with us, and within 1,000, we have more than 190 people who get connected with the different public grants, public funds, and they are now working very, very well. And so I think stop now and let the panel get going, and let's come back later. Yeah.
Thank you. Ridwan, would you like to go over your presentation, please?
Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm actually from Singapore. So what I'm going to really share with you, it's not really what I do, although it's a big part of what I do back in my home country, but it's actually the ecosystem that I'm in. Because I think that the topic today, the issue or challenges that we want to kind of tackle is about public financing and how it affects social mobility. Right, so I think we in Singapore itself, when I work and I come from Activate, and we like to call ourselves the cradle to the grave company, okay, because we do lifelong learning, right? So we train students, we train preschoolers, we train primary and secondary school, K-12, and then we go to universities, and we also train adults itself. And a big part of that, actually a lot of the organizations that we work with, schools, institutions, as well as big companies, rely on a lot of funding because, the social psychology in Singapore itself is that we have learned so many things, okay? So extra things to be learned, people who want to not pay for it, they want it free itself, right? So that's where kind of like the government comes in to do a lot of subsidies, a lot of bursaries, as well as free training programs. So I guess that one way that I think that the system really works, it's not just about getting that public financing itself, right? So I'm just going to give you a rundown of what happens in the country. Like when we look at students, and we look at students as early as when they enter primary school, in Singapore it's about when they are about 7 years old, they all have a fund inside a bank account, a special bank account, and that's called the EduSave account. And that is for any enrichment classes, any classes. For example, I want to go to Matthew and say, I want to go to a Maths Olympiad. I want to send my students to Maths Olympiad. Oh, don't worry, we have a funding for that. Yeah, so that's the EduSave system. There are other kind of fundings, like for example, if we are going to bring students overseas, and sometimes we do a lot of that, we do visits to, for example, to Guangzhou in China, okay, because we want to visit factories to learn about entrepreneurship. Yeah, so there is an internationalization fund for that. So at the ministry system itself, I think there are different kinds of funds that are used for different purposes. But I think what's really working, right, is not just about the funding, but it's the mapping of the competencies. Like if you want that funding, it's good, but you need to map across and align. Okay, you need to show that because we go for this training program, it will fulfill certain competencies, and these competencies need to be shown. That means there needs to be a learning evidence. There needs to be something tangible. So for example, if I'm going to Guangzhou and I have to go to do that entrepreneurship program, I need to come back, for example, and maybe attend a hackathon, or produce a kind of a pitch, or produce some kind of product, right? And that needs to be qualified as before, needs to be shown that all this is going to happen before the funding is released or funding is approved itself. Yeah. So that it's a little bit about that. And then we got, if organizations as well as adult learners want to learn, every Singaporean at the age of 25 years old are given a token sum of $500, and you can use that money to go for any courses that you want, right? So, but these courses, again, has to be approved by the government. So again, there's another system, and this system, it's really about mapping the competencies. So what we have is that in Singapore itself, we have what we call, the skills framework, the national skills framework, and this framework is done, the research is done across all the different industries, right? So I think that it's really, really crucial because when we are moving not just from head knowledge, but also practical knowledge in the age of AI, the age of digital, it's really important to know what are the skills that not only our students need, but our workers need itself. Because I think there are a lot of people today who might find that their jobs are becoming irrelevant because of AI. And then what do I want to pivot to? And that's where they can tap on some of these fundings, by understanding, if I want to go into become an AI engineer, I want to become a digital marketer, these are the skills that I need to have. And when they have this skills mapping, these skills mapped are linked to the way that the funds are being released. So for example, if I'm an organization and I want to teach people how to do customer service, very basic customer service, I need to go to the hotel industry, understand all the skills, and show that in my training program, all these are being met. So it's like really what we call it a performance criteria for you to become, for example, an excellent concierge at a hotel. So we have all these mapped out, and then you show that the training program is there, and then you get the funding itself. So it's I think the system really works not just because of the funding, but because these are real competencies that are being, that are being verified itself. And the result of that, just a little bit to give you a context, the result of that is that in the year 2021, so this is just, this is something very technical, but basically what happens is that the instructional designers, the training organizations, and even the different government bodies will have access to this Excel sheet where they can map across this learning. So as an instructional designer, you not only need to know what skills are there, but how to map it across the different jobs, the different skills itself, so that you can show that, oh, my training program actually meets this criteria, okay, I can get approved for funding, all right? So that's a bit of that. Okay, so there's a bit of data. I think that this is, they haven't released the data in the last 2 years itself, but I think it's 2021. Okay, so there's been a high rise in people taking courses itself, but I think that was also accelerated by the pandemic because people were at home and they wanted to do something because they were concerned about the future and they had some time. Okay, so but yeah, the numbers has been pretty consistent over 21, 22, 23. But I think what's really important is that not only have the numbers been consistent, it has shown, especially in the employability rates, that when you get these courses, you will be able to apply for new jobs in different industries, especially the tech industries. There were a lot of people who took some of these courses like UI, UX design, digital marketing, cyber, for example, I think cyber crime and all that. So all these things, or even things like programming itself, where they actually got funded, okay, and they actually managed to transit to a new career, even at the age of 40, 45, 50 itself, which was, so that gave us a lot of hope, right? So, and there's a big organization in Singapore that's working on that, okay, that is working on engaging with the different industries in order to map the competencies, and that's trickled down to the schools, so that not only do I know this when I'm an adult, but even as a schoolgoer, when I'm about 14 or 15 years old, my teacher can teach me, can coach me on how I can map what I'm good at, my talents, my skills, for the right opportunities out there so that I can go to the right courses in order for me to get that career. So I think that it's just a rundown of how the public financing system, backed by a skills framework, has increased the democratization of learning and enhanced the social mobility back in Singapore. Yeah. So I think, yeah, just hand it over, then later we can field some questions about that.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm a little bit different. I'm going to get up and walk around. I'm very reluctant to sit down. So, oops, I'm going the wrong way. All right, so as I mentioned before, I'm from the College of Health and Fitness. So we run public funded courses in fitness, health, business and nutrition within Australia. What I'm going to share with you today is part of our model in how we've been able to access and utilise public funding in order to support those who have come from disadvantaged situations. So our key aspect here is we empower disadvantaged students by using public funding to provide educational opportunities to those who are disadvantaged. Now, that includes those from low socioeconomic areas, as well as incarcerated individuals. When we established, so the college established in 2002, we had no interest in helping or working within incarcerated students or within a correctional centre. However, over the last few years, that's now become one of our core businesses. What we found was there was a market gap. So we limited training providers providing educational opportunities to those in correctional centres. And in particular, in Australia, we are relatively lucky where there is public funding, which has been obtained very similar like businesses, like my esteemed panellists here, who allow us to run certificates 2 and 3 and 4 courses within a correctional centre. So our customers are normally prisoners who don't have any formal education. A lot of them are from very low socioeconomic status, and a lot of them have very limited literacy and numeracy skills. So one of our major challenges was how do we deliver a program in a correctional centre which has limited computer and no internet access? We were lucky and very fortunate in that we have been able to access and use public funding from the Australian government as well as very graciously from the Queensland Government. So what we do is we've been able to close a gap, and I'll give you some examples very soon, where we provided nationally recognised training and we've provided solutions to those who would not have otherwise returned to post-prison release. So in other words, what I mean is our students are those who are long-time offenders, who have been in and out of the system since they have been juveniles, and we provide them with education opportunities where they're then able to walk out of the correctional centre and into a position or into a job. Now, since we've started this program, our graduates from our correctional centre program, we've demonstrated a reduced return to prison of over 28%. So these are long-term prisoners who've been in and out of the system pretty much since they've been 10, 11, 12. They're now coming to us as adults, and we reduced their rate of return by 28%, which is a significant saving to the Queensland Government at this stage in public funding to house a prisoner. Now, as I mentioned before, one of our biggest challenges was the low literacy and numeracy of these students. Now, we've been able to, once again, using public funding, be able to develop a literacy and numeracy program which have enhanced their reading, writing skills to that of someone who is in Australian equivalent of grade 8 or grade 9. So these are some individuals who have not been able to read or write. One of our issues as per many education organisations, was during lockdowns and COVID period. And so we had to flip our model from a face-to-face delivery to a paper-based delivery system with in-house tutors. Now, COVID was a bit of a blessing for us in this regard, because what it allowed us to do was to allocate a prisoner, allocate them as a tutor for us. So in other words, we were then able to employ, in technical words, we were employed by the correctional centre to act as a tutor on our behalf for other students doing the courses. So it gained that particular inmate a job, gained them respect, and also showed the other inmates who were doing our courses, here's a career path, even if I do have a long-term sentence, so if I am a lifer. Our target audience in these correctional centres are Indigenous, women, those with limited education, and from those with very low income families. So we do rule out a number of prisoners who have a higher education degree or who have other qualifications that once they are out, they are able to gain employment. Some of our positive outcomes is that we've been able to run very free and also to very, very low cost programs. So most of our programs in a correctional centre cost $5 Australian. Okay, so I think that works out based on an exchange rate of around 10 AED or thereabouts. And that's for a full qualification. So these students will be graduated or graduating as either gym instructors, personal trainers, health administrators, be able to develop their business or business plans. So we actually provide them with a Cert 2 and Cert 3 in business, and a number of coming out as sport nutritionists. So they're coming out with a number of qualifications that allow them to obtain gainful employment. As I mentioned before, we have a reduction in return to prison rates of 28% through this program. We also have award-winning graduates. So since we've been starting this program, so we established the college in 2002. We started working in correctional centres by default in 2004. Because we had a prison come to us and say, hey Tony, no one wants to come work in correctional centres. We've asked every other RTO, you're our last one, would you like to do it? And so we saw the opportunity and said yes. Now from there, our graduates have won Personal Trainer of the Year in Australia. They've also won various local awards for personal training and for business. So this is post-prison release. Some of our major accomplishments is we have students who will stay behind at the end of their very final class, who will then wait for every other inmate to leave till there's just myself or one of our trainers and that inmate in the room, and then they will break down crying. The reason why they break down crying is this because it's their first qualification that they have ever achieved in their life. This is the first thing that they have successfully been able to do. I'm flying back here on Sunday, driving straight to central Queensland, where we have 3 Indigenous students who have not graduated from primary school, who have successfully passed a Certificate 3 in fitness, and for them, as it is such a major milestone, their mob, or their tribe for want of a term that most of you would know, their mob is actually being invited to the prison and having an official awards ceremony for these 3 individuals. So that's the impact that we are having on community, on this particular community, but also on the local community and on the Indigenous communities within Queensland, just through the use of public funding. So what we do is something that's very, very unique. We were first to market because no one else wanted to do it. It is tested, and it is an authentic qualification that the students will walk out of. It is exactly the same qualification as if any of you in the room did or will do with us on the outside. The only limitation for them, well, you have the benefit of using ChatGPT. You have the benefit of using computer. You have the benefit of internet. You have the benefit of talking to someone who's working in the industry. They are completing a course without any of those access items. Now, before I hand it over to questions, and you can ask any questions of my esteemed panel here. Oh, Matthew's got some stats here we should talk about, sorry. What we'll do is I'll hand it over to Matthew. I got a question. How did you feel when I asked you to stand up? I noticed that most of you were very, very resistant to change. Most of you didn't want to stand up. I also noticed that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the back row who did not change seats. Very, very much like the prisoners who I work with. They're very resistant to change. So one of the things you must get if this program is to be successful, and we are running these programs and rolling these programs out throughout every country in the world, is that you must engage and have your students ready to accept change. Now I'm going to hand it over to Matthew, who will provide us with some statistical evidence.
Before I provide some statistical evidence, I just give a brief introduction in public financing in Hong Kong. Yeah. In Hong Kong, our government will give every student 15 years free education, including 3 years of kindergarten, 6 years of primary schools, and 6 years of secondary schools. After that, all students have to participate in a public examination, and who can receive an undergraduate degree offer can borrow money from our government with a very low interest, so that none of them will give up their study because of their affordability. That means if they cannot afford, they can still borrow some money for that. Yeah, and maybe I need some time to prepare the statistical evidence. Maybe I give the speaking time to.
Okay, so do we have any questions from the floor? Microphone's just to your right there.
Well, I appreciate the efforts all of you are making, helping some individuals to come out of the lower social economic positions and earn a livelihood better. But as you yourselves pointed out, it's only limited individuals who make it. And there are a lot of people who, despite having qualifications and skills, are not able to enter the world of work. Because till today, around the world, occupational positions are still hereditary. In terms of classes, the middle class children enter middle class occupations. The lower class children remain in the lower classes. Although there may be a little change from lower level to a little higher level. But in terms of manual, non-manual levels, there is very little crossing, up or down. So there's very little social mobility that is taking place because of the structure that the societies have. And individual institutions, NGOs, persons, they can do and help individuals. But the structure essentially remains unchanged. Unless the structure changes, you cannot expect masses to cross this manual, non-manual level. So, to my mind, there is a necessity of societal, or what we call the state control over distribution of jobs, which is not happening anywhere in the world. And education is expanding. And this education really is not a basic factor in social mobility. It's only a residual factor. More important factors in social mobility are family background. Is everywhere evident. Our studies have shown that. Now, let's do something to change this structure so that this short-term mobility, which we take as illustration, that look, we have done this thing, so many people have, from a plumber's son has become an aircraft mechanic, but he's still at the manual level itself. You have not helped him to cross over to the non-manual level. And similarly, is very rarely found that the children from the non-manual families come down to the manual level. So there is really no social mobility actually taking place. And if at all it is taking place, it is this little level here and there. And there are no riches from riches to rags stories, nor are there any from rags to riches stories. So I would like that we think about changing the structure so that the structural hurdles that these manual classes face, or the challenge that they face in crossing this manual, non-manual line. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for the part of yours. But one thing I must like to add here is the thing you have already mentioned, that the structure should be changed to get more of this, and the social parameter should be changed like this. But one thing is, what I feel, what we feel at Alert is, in one day we can't, but we are trying to do it. If Matthew is possible, you can show this kind of thing on my slide. Yeah. So, sir, what we are trying to do is now, in Odisha, we have tried it. In India, Odisha, we have tried. What we did is, we're trying to bridge these kind of parameters that someone is richer, so they have some accessibility. So what we did, we get connected to the banks, to the higher topmost authorities, And we asked for the help. And now what's happening, when these people are going to the bank with their own business plan and the business pitches, it's getting very easier for them to accessibility of those kind of funds. If not possible for them or the bank, not possible. So what they're doing is they're diverting them to another fund. And this mechanism, I don't know how it will happen, how it will work in the coming 10 years. But currently, if I'm telling about today, then it's working fantastically over there. In 6 months, what we have seen, we have come across around more than 50 people who have come out with their own ideas. They want to access this kind of fund. They don't want any kind of grants. They need their own fund. They will pay the interest for that fund, and they will make their own business of their own. So this kind of fund is now available over there. And we're trying to bridge these kind of gaps, that social gaps you are talking about. But surely it will take much more time. But one thing we say, it will not happen in one day, but one day it will happen. Yeah, please.
I began with appreciating what you all have been doing. But it's not bringing a structural change, that's my issue. I've been studying social mobility for the last 40 years. My concern has been equality, inequality, social mobility, upward, downward, and I've studied. My studies and the studies of my students show that occupational status, achievement of an occupational status is still linked more to an individual's background rather than his education. And now, very simple. You have lots of engineers. One is getting a crore package per year in India, and another is working in a call center getting 15,000-20,000 rupees. Why? And then we dismiss all these cases by saying that the first fellow had greater talent, he was more intelligent, and the other fellow did not have that. So this intelligence is also used as a proxy variable for the background. And in the first instance, this is not the forum where we could discuss it so broadly, but still, till today, I'm now 78-year-old and started studying social sciences at the age of 20. I have not understood what is intelligence. Nobody has been able to define intelligence to me. And if any one of you can, please help me. Everybody is talking of intelligence quotient, but nobody is able to define intelligence itself. But still we use it as a proxy variable to tell the failures that you failed because you were not intelligent. And others, coming from the very strong family background, and this family background does not give only economic support. It gives something what is called cultural capital, which is not available to the lower classes. And because of that cultural capital, because of the connections of the middle class families, the youngsters in the middle class remain in the middle class and do not slip into the manual workers class. And because of this cultural capital, funding which you are trying to provide, and the connections are not the things that these manual workers have. So they remain where they are, despite their education. So that's why I would suggest what you are doing, you continue. I'm not asking you to stop doing it, but try, make an effort towards bringing about a structural change that a mass of youngsters from the manual class moves into the non-manual and prevent some already in the non-manual for centuries from going further up. They can slip down also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. I've got another couple of questions.
Hello, Anesu here. I think with the topic that we're discussing, right, and you mentioned something pretty important when it comes to change. I think you saw with everyone in the room, when it comes to change, a big thing that drives change in people is understanding the why, right? So now for us as educators, there needs to be a good collaboration between the private sector, industry sector, where we go in to see, and then we become we go into the private sector, into the industry, and be the eyes that see the why there is a need to change in the academic sector, right? And then we bring that back, and then it becomes the responsibility of the individual educator to look at his class, like the gentleman before was saying. If you have a middle to low income class, if you take the effort to get into industry, to see what is there, to discover the why change is needed, you can then easily come back and adopt it to your class and understand that, okay, the economic standpoint for my students is this way, but the why in the industry, like the industry needs people like this, like this, like this, like this. So now me as the educator, I'm going to change my ways to ensure that these low-income students have got access into that why. And now when we go into the private sector, because we've established the why, we already know the problem with our students, we can now communicate the right language to the private sector and be like, okay, we have students that are less privileged in this way. You in the private sector or the industry sector have these problems that you want to fix and cater for. Us as educators, we have designed this structure, or we've brought up these products that actually help bridge that gap. Can you finance these low-income students that we've been working with so that they can get into the industry when they're ready? Like by the time we've done educating them, you know for a fact that we have been equipping them to fix the problems that industry has told us that we need to fix. So to really bridge that gap, us as educators, we need to go into the world, have our eyes open, our ears open, so that the life around us can show us the change that we need to bring for the next generation that's following behind. That's just my comment.
Thank you. Now, that is our time up, Belle, but I'm going to ignore that because I noticed our clock wound down very, very quickly. It dropped by 8 minutes. So I'm going to take 2 more questions.
Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Kogi Naidu, and I was on the panel this morning, and I was quite riled up, and so was our table. You know, it's great to actually have education, and we all know that education is a way out, and we can go up. We can move out of our social, where we are socially, in terms of who we are as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice about who we, our ethnicity, our race, our backgrounds, etc. Where we're born as well. So just indulge me for a few seconds. I stood there and accepted the award, and I was very proud to actually say who I am, where I am, and what I do. I'm the president of HERTSA, which is the Australian Higher Education Professional Society. And in 50 years, they never had a person of color. So I'm female. I've got Indian ethnicity. I was born in South Africa in apartheid. I'm first in family. My dad didn't have high school. So I'm first in family, and I'm proud of that. But it's a huge struggle. And then to have moved 3 countries and to have achieved what I have achieved, it's great. But is it great if we've got putting more money into it and we're not changing the structure? And so I'd like to actually support what Dr. Ramesh Kumar Muju said earlier and urge us all to be focusing more on changing who we are to make change for the future. Looking at someone like myself, being in a leadership role is no easy feat. I face challenges all the time. I face challenges here in the conference as well, how I've been received, because people look at me and they think, you're an Indian female. Am I an Indian female? Yes, I am, but I'm more than an Indian female. And that's what we need to see, and that's not what we need to encourage and accept. And the previous speaker talked about, showing people the pathway and showing people how to do what we do. So education, and a lot of the presentations focused on this. It's about what value you bring to that student, what value you bring to the person you're talking to, and be in the moment as opposed to thinking about what it's going to bring you next. Remember, I've walked this path as well. You have to have research grants, you have to have all of these things to actually get to where you need to be. So I've played the game, but reality is also important, and our everyday. If you can live with yourself and go to bed at night thinking that and knowing that you've helped someone and made that difference, I think it's far more worthwhile than that funding or the research grant or that leadership award. So I challenge everyone here to actually think about those preschool educators and those panels that we've watched and learned from. And the biggest learning for me has been that SEL with the social emotional learning that we all need to practice, even as adults. Don't look at it as being early childhood education. Look at it as being our education. And like I said when we closed our panel earlier, have fun and be a child for again. Be an adult child and be open to that learning and possibility. So I challenge you as a panel to actually refocus your funding bids to actually focus on changing and doing the real social mobility change at that structural level. So thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh Kumar.
Thank you. And last question.
Hello everyone. My name is Muhammad Yusuf. I'm from India. I have something to discuss. In this world, today, we have been able to put down many social ills. We have chopped the tree of social ills, but the roots of social ills still remain inside the soil. The tree might regrow. In most places, I've seen people at higher positions, whether it is a company or an institution, they reach such positions only because of having connections with the higher authorities and not because of merit. I have proposals to restructure the society. Instead of promoting people to high positions based on their connections, we must organize exams, assessments to realize who has more knowledge, who has more skills, so that the organization can give a greater output. Or else the poor will always remain the poor and the rich will be the rich. And we must also concentrate on financing the education sector, especially to the poor people, because even today some of the poor people, they don't receive adequate amount of education. Even if they're educated and they have that talent, they're not given the opportunity. So we must structure a society in such a way that exams are organized to analyze the skills of the people, and the one who scores the highest must be promoted to the highest position.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. As his reply, I'd like to say, maybe it's not been done in school, I don't know. But in our case, where we're working for the elders, we're doing the same. We teach them all, and we bring them in the same platform. And whoever got the best, he got the answer. He got the field, he got the fund. As you can see, we have come across more than 1,000 people in 2 years, and only 190 got to the fund, accessibility fund. It's not for they have the connection with us. It's because they sharpen themselves, they make their own pitch so good, they make their own business, own structure, own thing so structural that no one can stop them. Yeah, I understand the issues. Still, it happens in everywhere. If you have connection, you got promoted. If your father is rich, you will get in a hard position by his connection. But yeah, surely, one day maybe, I don't know, one day maybe it can be breezed all over the world. And who knows, we are the pioneer of that. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for attending, and right on the buzzer. And if you'd like to give a round of applause for my esteemed colleagues and panellists up here. And I'd just like you to walk away and think about this one little thing. And I acknowledge some of the comments made from the floor. However, even though we're not making major social changes, we are impacting the lives of one individual and making a change for one individual at a time with what we are doing. It starts with one person. We cannot change the whole world in one instance, but we can change it with one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful chat there. Now, yes, gentlemen, please take your photo opportunity. Okay, we're just going to take a quick moment, everybody, just to do a little bit of networking, meeting new people. We did a little bit before, but let's find somebody in the room who you haven't spoken to, have a quick chat to them, and then we are going to get onto some recognition awards.